You're watching Arise News app. Now, an inquiry has found a string of errors in France's handling of the Champions League final in May, with Liverpool fans unfairly blamed. Well, for more on this and other sports stories, broadcaster and journalist Ola Tomiwe Toby joins me now. Toby, thanks for joining us. So this report from the French Senate puts the blame squarely at the authorities. What more did it have to say?
I mean, if we go just back to the day itself, 28th of May, there was a drama on the field. And of course, the drama off the field seemed to have influenced all of the series of events that took place. On the field, the match was delayed by 30 minutes. We heard the stadium announcer say it's because fans were being delayed, and then
Liverpool fans
were late. And then we saw a tweet from the French Interior Minister saying, "Oh, fans brought in fake tickets." And now this whole bombshell, really, of an inquiry has put the blame solely on how the police handled themselves. It says there was lack of coordination and a complication of chains of events and malfunction. It blames it squarely on the lack of preparation from the side to understand fans were going to be gathered. What were the passes available for fans? Were there bus routes to bring fans into the stadium? And it also brings out this really interesting view that about 300 to 400 people, criminals, were somewhat surrounding the areas in the days and somewhat weeks leading up to the event. And there was not enough investigation and information passed across from the police to the fans to cater for them. It puts the blame squarely on the French minister and, of course, the prime minister as well. And in some way, the president, and says they need to do more to cater for the fans. And I believe we'll have a clip of what they actually say.
Let's hear it.
The two arguments put forward by the Interior Minister on Saturday and Sunday, that the incidents that passed were linked to a massive influx of spectators and to fake ticketing, are not the only causes of the chaos. The Interior Minister's response to the fiasco, which we have presented on the evening of the match and the day after the match, was not the right one.
And Toby, it wasn't just the French Interior Minister. During that delay, it was UEFA who also put out a statement blaming Liverpool fans for turning up late. Following this Senate inquiry exonerating Liverpool fans, will the French government and even UEFA have to apologise now?
I mean, in all things being equal, we would be expecting an apology from them. Of course, we know the politics of all of this has a different bearing. We might hear some statements from them, but it might determine what kind of statements will we hear from them, what kind of slants will they sort of give to it. We know there was something very political about the way the Prime Minister and, of course, the Interior Minister, including the opposition political members, trying to make this like a political thing to show how British fans were being represented abroad. But this report has found out that all of that seemed to be untrue. Fans were being tear-gassed. We had them going through one single tunnel, and we had police being unnecessarily aggressive towards fans. And it's quite disappointing because you expect on the biggest of stages at the Stade de France, on a global event like that, there'll be more preparation and more background work being done by the police, but it was abysmal, to say the least.
It was abysmal. And what's more painful for Liverpool fans, of course, during the Hillsborough disaster in 1989, police were also very quick to blame them, and of course they were later exonerated from any blame from subsequent government reports. This is of course very embarrassing for France because they've got some huge sporting events coming up. They've got the 2023 Rugby World Cup and the Paris Olympics in 2024.
I mean, and it's quite interesting because the Rugby World Cup, the very first game, would be hosted at the very same stadium. That's September 8th, France versus New Zealand. And leading up to all of these events is two very big events, the biggest rugby events. And of course, you have the Cup also in 2024. Definitely between now and then, there are things that need to be sorted. And to be fair to the French government or the French police, organizing these events, you always have to consider everything else that needs to be involved. The planning, the information, and getting fans across, ensuring fans' safety, especially at an international event.
Now let's turn to matters on the field. Transfer news, the new season isn't that far away now. Huge news, Raheem Sterling confirming he's leaving Man City and heading to Chelsea. The transfer has also been confirmed by both clubs. Are you surprised to see City release him? He's only 27 years old. You could argue he's about to reach his peak.
Yes, we had this discussion just moments before. And it's quite an interesting one for the part of Man City. Sterling has been there, something in the region of 7 years. And, well, he's been a top player from Liverpool, going to a world-class player at Manchester City. He's pretty much won it all, as domestic cups could be, well, excluding the Champions League, of course. Then letting him go, we know they've always been the back and forth between himself and Pep Guardiola over the last couple of seasons. And then there are a couple of replacements that they've also brought into the field. Alvarez, of course, Erling Haaland as well. But then Sterling offers so much more to Pep Guardiola. He's the highest scoring current player at Manchester City under Pep Guardiola, third highest scoring player that Guardiola has ever managed in his career. So his quality is definitely there. Now letting him go for 45 million, well, approximately 50 million, I don't know if the business sense of it.
And also just the football sense. City are selling Sterling to a direct rival. That's quite rare in the top echelons of English football now, isn't it?
Yeah, it pretty much never happens, especially for a player that we've just said, a world-class player, selling him to a direct rival. Both clubs have announced in the last 30 minutes or so that he's moving over to Chelsea. But for Chelsea, on the other hand, good business for them. Todd Boehly trying to get in Nathan Ake, Kalidou Koulibaly, Raheem Sterling, to put up more of a front, more of an attack for Manchester City. City themselves have Jack Grealish, if you remember, Haaland and Julian Alvarez also doing business for them. The one thing Chelsea have always had problems with was in front of the attack. Raheem Sterling provides options. Centre forward, right wing, left wing. And the last time Chelsea had a very important person in that field was Didier Drogba, who scored the Golden Boot 2009-2010 season. Would Raheem Sterling be able to replicate that form? Watch this space.
We'll have to wait and see. Olatomo Toby, sports broadcaster for the moment. Thank you.